yesterday and won with it, so I don't think we're gonna see it today, but it's maybe now something that has to stay in the back of your mind.
Yeah, also TSM played Jewel yesterday.
Yeah, that's very true.
They played Jewel, so Jewel and Flicker are just two picks that just came up on both teams. But Gage Flicker was amazing. I actually watched the series, and he played an amazing Flicker. He just went to the mid and stole it against a Grace. It was hilarious to watch, and they played it really well. So Grace is going to be picked up here for Cloud9. That's always a first pick that TSM out Cloud9 actually takes if it is available.
Yeah, and kind of unsurprisingly, really, Grace is just so strong right now. Baron would be available if TSM wants to give that over to Best Truck NA. I'd love to see FlashX go with the flicker here, just to say, you think that was a good, flicker into Grace? Let me show you.
Yeah, I don't think they'll pick Baron because they'll probably pick someone that has mortal wounds because Grace is a healer and does a lot of the shielding setup. So mortal wounds actually counters her to a certain extent. So maybe they might pick Baron, but I doubt it. They might pick another hero with Baron that can apply mortal wounds.
Baron is this is a risky pick. I mean, Baron is very, very strong. It feels strange to say Baron is a risky pick, but Grace is so strong against a Baron. Like, she can counter a Baron incredibly hard. Once his jump jets are down, he has no way to escape her Holy Nova. It's the fastest move speed in the game versus the slowest base move speed in the game, and her Holy Shields do so much to shut down a Baron.
Yeah, the damage reduction.
If you use the Benediction as soon as Baron uses his jump jets, you and your teammates will have a Holy Shield up when he gets that double attack off, and that is 40% plus damage reduction.
Yeah, that is going to be huge, especially when a lot of Baron gameplay these days relies very heavily on burst damage, but Lyra is going to be the lock-in. This is not something that FlashX is new to.
I think Cloud9 will probably play Galen Glaive with a Black Feather. I think for sure they're gonna play the Black Feather here because he can poke Baron, he can get onto Baron, Baron's low, and Joseph has been playing a phenomenal Black Feather based on the previous weekends and stuff like that. Glaive will look good here. Idris will look good as well. A melee hero that can jump onto them. Yep, they're going to pick the Glaive. And now TSM needs to pick something to counter. Maybe potentially a Rhyme since Koshka is not available. Samuel. Let's see what TSM is going to decide here. But Cloud9 has a pretty solid draft, honestly, into Baron.
Yeah, very aggressive draft.
Yeah, while the Grace does a good job of countering the Baron, or so does the Glaive and the Black Feather. They're both able to just get onto his face and make life difficult for him. So really TSM needs to pick up something that can supplement the damage out of the Baron, because Baron is so likely to be focused heavily. I would love to see Rhyme come through for TSM. I think that would do wonders into this triple melee composition. But Uzo the option. This is, it can work because there isn't a lot that can really on-demand stop an acro bounce from coming through.
Well, you have the Grace Holy Nova, though.
It's not on demand, though. Like, but you have to channel that so early and happen to have Ozo bounce onto you while it's being channeled.
I mean, we'll have to see. Right now, TSM looking to challenge G2 in terms of drafting some strange things right now. Well, I mean, Sweej, what do you make of it?
Well, here's why. Because when Ozo's bouncing, it's so easy to telegraph it. Grace can just basically Holy Nova before he lands the next bounce onto the carry. So you can actually hit an Ozo pretty easy with the Holy Nova. On top of that, you have Glaive that can put Ozo out of position, and they can just jump on the Ozo. So that's part of Cloud9's win condition, is to kill Ozo when he's trying to jump in there, or get on Baron if Baron's out of position.
That's the other thing, though, is if you're trying to focus the Ozo, that's free damage for Baron, who's going to be free reign to just unload. So I think the Ozo is actually a relatively good pick. I don't think it's the best pick, but I definitely can see where the pick is coming from, what the idea behind the pick is in trying to just say, you're going to be focused. You're going to have to put full focus onto one of these two, and the other one will be able to run rampant while you're doing that.
All right, so I'm going to ask you guys for a prediction on this one. It's TSM Cloud9 after all. Where are we feeling the victory is going to go in this first game? Sweej, we'll start with you.
Both teams have great drafts, but I do think Cloud9 may win with the early game aggression with Grace here.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the Grace is going to be able to overcome the Ozo. I think it's being able to block up the damage from the Baron, and then Ozo doesn't do enough burst in a single moment that Grace won't be able to heal it through.
All right, very quickly,
One thing real quick, Ozo does have fortified health each jump he makes, so with Lyra heal and fortified health, he may live longer, so that might work.
Okay, could be tanky enough. We'll have to wait and see. Get involved on social media, hashtag Vainglory8. Tell all your friends, TSM versus Cloud9. It doesn't get more hype than this. It's just about time to head on into this one. I mean, this is a battle of the ages. Cloud9, TSM, there's an Ozo in the compositions. This is going to be just about incredible. Gabe Bizzle was telling us in London about some small mistakes that can affect the game.
I would probably say since Vainglory is a snowball-heavy type game, a little misplay or a team fight going wrong in just one scenario could actually just snowball the game.
We'll have to see if that is going to be the case here with this Cloud9 versus TSM. Gabe Bizzle currently with some aggressive moves into the jungle. Isn't quite able to steal away any of Von C's camps. But let's talk about Von C for a second here. Ozo coming out. I'm sure there's a lot of keen fans about that. But Ozo hasn't seen much popularity recently at Scoundrel, and there's kind of a reason for that.
Yeah, so Ozo is a carry who has two facets to his kit, right? High mobility, but also the sustain. The reason that Ozo was so strong in previous patches, or reason he actually was seeing a lot more competitive play in certain scenarios, is that Ozo's sustain is actually a really integral part of his kit. The fact that Poison Shiv is such a popular weapon power build right now just means that you shut down Ozo and you make him part of his kit that made him so unique and so, I guess, good in certain situations. You completely shut that down. And with Poison Shift being basically in every single game right now, it makes Ozo a lot harder to pull off. And also, we're going to touch on that Grace Holy Nova interaction. It is very easy to see the very highly telegraphed acro bounce from Ozo and shut it down.
Yeah, now, it's a little bit weird. I was looking at it today, the acro bounce versus Holy Nova. It seems that the Holy Nova will stop the acro bounces after its next acro bounce. I'm not entirely sure, but there it is. It seems like you can still land one after being Holy Nova. I'll just have to see how it does play out, but Von C does get shut down there. Cloud9 able to aggress into the jungle, and it is so crucial for TSM to get Von C ahead here. If Cloud9 can do anything to take camps away from Von C, to find kills either on Von C or onto TSM, then this Ozo's just going to fall behind the CP Blackfeather, and that's really going to play into Cloud9's win conditions.
The problem is I don't know what Ozo does as this game goes on. Like, what is Ozo's role for TSM? Like, if I were TSM, I'd say, okay, like, either we pick something that has a lot of utility that can work well with Best Check NA's Baron, or we pick something that is going to have a sort of appeal for him. Actually, Best Check might actually
He does just lose his life. Lyra and Baron, a very aggressive lane, very hard actually into the melee heroes. You know, we talked a bit about book eulogies earlier at Scoundrel and how that kind of shuts down the range disadvantage, but actually when you have Baron and you have a Lyra, especially a Lyra just realistically, that can actually be that range disadvantage still being a thing.
Oh yeah, Baron is one of the hardest hitting weapon power carries in the game that can punish weapon, sort of range disadvantages, and Lyra just adds to the sort of lane oppression. She's one of the most oppressive lane captains in the game. It's a good thing that Best Check NA has had this kind of dominance in lane, because realistically, C9 have destroyed the jungle. I mean, Gabe Bizzle single-handedly shut down an early level 2 from Von C, and I Love Joseph has been allowed free farm, even Central Treants, all 3 so far, I think, have gone over to Cloud9. So they have completely dominated the jungle thus far. Best Check NA needed to get some wins in lane for TSM.
And you look at the CS difference, it's actually a huge one currently for Best Chuck, but Flash X may be in a bit of trouble here. Joseph looking for the kill. Old School trying to rotate before Best Chuck has that afterburn available. Where will he use it? Maybe defensively he does. Von C against the wall, but it's going to be Best Chuck with the AoE. Finally a kill on to Joseph. And now Von C diving in. Old School trying to do the work. Von C will lose his life. No fear, no, just fight. But the fight was not for his, it was for Best Chuck, who finds a second kill. Let's just talk about Baron right now, and Best Chuck's Baron.
Best Chuck's Baron is one of the best in North America, if not maybe the best in North America. I think he is one of the only guys that I've seen consistently make Baron work. I mean, people talk about Iraqi Zoro's Baron. I think it has been very hit or miss for Iraqi Zoro. I think even he would be the first to admit that. Best Chuck's Baron never loses, it feels like. Every time I see this guy play this hero, he is on point, and no pun intended with the Blackfeather in the game, but literally on point every single game, although just, yeah, they were right there, using perfect time to get away from the Old School gank. I was about to say he might have been under pressure there, but still, able to very cleanly get away from Old School trying to put pressure on him.
You know, there was a late Holy Nova. Well, there was no Holy Nova, but, you know, a late could have been there, could have tried and locked up Best Chuck. Like, TSM, yes, they have Von C on this Ozo. Yes, this Ozo gets massively countered by the composition from Cloud9, but it seemingly doesn't matter right now because of Best Chuck and his aggression consistently laying it down onto Cloud9. Usually, this is a matchup where Baron struggles early, especially into a melee bruiser like Glaive, like Idris, but right now it is Cloud9 struggling and losing Old School under their turret. Gabe Vizzle trying to keep the dream alive. He will be able to land a impressive 3-man Holy Nova, but it is just show. It means literally nothing for Cloud9.
Bestchuk is one of the only Barons that I think I've seen use his jump jets optimally in almost every situation. He knows the complete line between aggression and defense when using these jump jets on Baron. It is so impressive to see, Dowsey. Right now, it doesn't matter what Von C's doing. Von C can do whatever he wants. I mean, I personally, I think as this game progresses, I see Von C as either picking people off or using his Baron rank to peel for Bestchuk, because I feel that's the way that you have to go with TSM right now. The main, I think, barrier now for C9 is getting I Love Joseph to level 8, utilizing the range advantage that they'll have with that on point, trying to get consistent pokes with on point onto Bestchuk so that they can get those broken myth stacks building and then try and go for an execute on him.
Doesn't really feel like Cloud9 have drafted a very good anti-Baron composition. I guess the Afterburn is really their only tool. CK Viz will go in, TSM with the respect. The Baron goes out and there's just health bars melting on the side of Cloud9. Fountain goes out, Joseph trying to get back in the fight, but Bestchuk dives forward and Joseph's gonna lose his life for it. Old School can't find the kill. It's a double for Bestchuk, and Gabe Vizzle maybe a third. No, TSM won't chase it. There's no need to. A gold lead of 2,000 minutes of 2,000 at the moment, about to become 3,000. TSM are snowballing this game.
I don't know what's happened to C9, Dowsey. I mean, this is a team that dominated at the Unified Western Live Championships, and they have not had the same level of success here in the North American VG8. TSM have had their number every single time they've played. Week 1, TSM 2-0. Week 2, TSM 2-0. Is this going to be week 3, TSM 2-0?
It certainly feels like it at this point.
It looks like it right now, Dowsey. This is just an incredible display from TSM.
Cloud9 trying to find aggression onto Von C, probably the only person they can. But with Bestchuk just around the corner, he can dive over the wall and just lay it right back on top of them. You know, I guess it's worth noting for Cloud9, they have lost Physics as their drafter Scoundrel. Yes. You know, she certainly was a winning point for Cloud9, outdrafting their opponents consistently. Bestchuk looking for a steal, won't be able to find it. You know, Cloud9 felt pretty confident that without Physics, their drafts would still be very strong. But I haven't personally seen it, you know, no flame to Cloud9. I think Physics was one of their winning components.
Oh, absolutely. I think their draft was one of the most consistent things that they had during the Unified Western Live Championships. I think Physics has almost earned herself the name of one of the best drafters that Vainglory has ever had. And I think that C9 was so lucky to have that as part of their team winning the Unified Live Championships. The problem that I see for them in this competition, Dowsey, is when you commit with a Grace, the whole team kind of has to commit, right? The whole team has to jump in with the Grace to try and get pressure on the Baron, but if you don't kill the Baron, you're all grouped up for massive splash damage, and Baron provides that in ounces and pounds and stones. He has got that for days. So when C9 commit, if they don't get the kill, which, as we've seen, Bestchuk is very good at getting himself out of those situations, they're then all grouped up and just taking huge hits from the Baron.
Old School's gone on to Von C here. Bestchuk just dives away, and that's going to be Old School losing his life. Fountain was late from Gabe Vizzle as well. We'll be able to heal Joseph, but now he has to escape on Grace, and Bestchuk's going to make that a living misery for this Grace here. Flash X able to come over, Bright Bulwark, slowed down, I guess, if he wants to, but it seems like Gabe Vizzle is going to be able to escape for now. Portal used, Gabe Vizzle's gone. He runs straight into Bestchuk. Bestchuk has those jump jets, and that's going to be Gabe Vizzle going down to Von C, finally getting himself a kill here. TSM just looking so dominant, and Cloud9, they needed to snowball this game. They failed to do so. At 10 minutes, they're behind by what's only 2,000 gold. But when you consider a late game composition is ahead by 2,000 gold to a team that needed to win early, that is like you know, 5,000 gold, 6,000 theoretical gold that TSM are ahead.
Also, look at the build from Von C. You would classically expect an Ozo to pick up an Aftershock. He's gone for a Shatterglass. Not only does that amplify his healing more so than a Aftershock would, it is very good at dealing burst damage to two heroes in the form of the Glaive and the CP Blackfeather, who classically wouldn't be building much shielding because of the Baron, right? The main threat would obviously be the Baron. You feel like you need some armor against Baron, even though I don't think armor's that effective against Baron, to be honest. And the fact that CP Blackfeather is so squishy, and if you can get onto him, that's a lot of burst damage that Von C can put down. Very clever itemization from Von C coming out here.
Yeah, certainly, and we'll have to see if Cloud9 have any hope of finding a kill. Their focus cannot be onto Von C. It has to be onto Best Chuck. He is laying down so much damage, but I guess considering that there is a Shadowglass on Von C, he will continue to do work. He is going to knock Old School around and around downtown as Best Chuck starts laying down the damage. Von C going very low, will lose his life. In fact, Flash X late to the fountain, and Cloud9 are able to walk away now. A little bit of a miscommunication, misplay there from TSM. Not really committing as a team. Von C continuing his no fear, just fight mantra. Now TSM will have to be careful as Grace dives in. Best Chuck able to escape with the jump jets. Lays down a lot of damage, but here comes Old School. Knocks him against the wall, and that's going to be Best Chuck losing his first life. They trade it back somehow. Turret, I guess, getting involved, but they did kill the Baron.
Yeah, some silver linings here, you have to say, for C9, but they don't really look like that was them getting a couple of kills. They got literally almost nothing for it. They didn't get any map pressure. I think they got some shutdown gold onto Best Chuck. I mean, not just some shutdown goals. I think they got a lot of shutdown gold there. But again, it didn't really result in anything tangible in terms of map presence. They still have the gold miner at full. They didn't manage to take. They still have a full HP tier 1 turret that they have to take down on TSM's lane. That big gold input has allowed, I think, I Love Joseph to pick up the Broken Myth, though, and that's a big item spike for him. He can start to stack that, and that'll be a threat to Best Chuck, who is not going to build any shielding because he's a Baron, doesn't build shielding. So they will have to look out whether if one of the win conditions now for C9 is I Love Joseph stacking on point from range, building Broken Myth stacks, and then basically executing Best Chuck.
Currently, TSM looking to push forward here. Cloud9 are grouping, looking for these fights consistently. Best Chuck does get aggressed onto. That is jump jets being used defensively. Okay, 9-second window of opportunity, but look at where Best Chuck is positioning. Right on his turret. Those seconds tick on by, and his jump jets are back up again to be used either offensively or defensively again. Here comes Von C onto Joseph. Nice block with the Rose offensive. That's going to be Gabe Vizzle diving onto Best Chuck. It is going to be Von C diving around the fight. Ion Cannon falls on top of Cloud9's heads, and Gabe Vizzle very, very low. Has his ultimate, may look to use it on himself so he can save the fountain for a rainy day. TSM, though, consistently doing a lot of work here in these fights. Von C now with a Broken Myth on board for his Ozo. When these fights do go the way of TSM and the sustained, fights start going out, Von C's going to build up a lot of damage.
Also, you have to pay attention to the fact that even if Von C's damage is there with the Broken Myth now, the range of I Love Joseph is starting to become a problem for TSM. Even in that fight, Gabe Vizzle didn't use his fountain. There was a fountain advantage because Flash X had to burn his. There is now an Atlas Pauldron on Gabe Vizzle. I don't know if Atlas Pauldron is super effective against Baron. I don't like it that much because Baron really doesn't rely that much on attack speed. I think a lot of his burst comes from his jump jets. As you can see, he hasn't built any attack speed into his kit at all. So I don't know. I don't know how much I like Atlas against Baron. I think it's good, but not amazing. And like it compared to some other carries, but those are going to start to stack up now. If Gabe Vizzle can get that onto Best Chuck, you still have the potential to execute right now. C9 definitely not out of this fight.
They aren't, but they need to find a better execution. It needs to be everyone on to Best Chuck and remove him from the fight as quickly as possible. Haven't been able to consistently do it. Best Chuck's only died once so far this game. Got himself now a weapon power infusion, level 11 for the next fight. 14.5 minutes, only 30 seconds. Still the Kraken joins us on the Halcyon Fold here at Scoundrel. And whoever wins the next fight will be pushing to take a lot of turrets.
Max item build now for Best Chuck. He's got all 4 weapon power items necessary to make that late game threat that Baron can be a reality. But he is got to start to worry about that Joseph on points coming out. And Best Chuck, he will not be able to play from range this entire game. But Joseph goes in. This is the engage.
Von C going in, Acro bouncing around the house, does just disengage. 2 stacks will be dropped to 0. And TSM will just use those Imperial Sigils to heal back up, ready for the next engage here. Moving into the jungle, seeming like TSM want to farm up, get some experience, get that third ultimate overdriven for Best Chuck so that he has that extended range, going to be very useful for the team. And there it is, level 12, instantly into his ultimate for that extended range. Now look at the damage he can deal at a much increased range. This makes Cloud9's life even harder. In fact, it's an engage. Flash X diving in. Vonsi, though, doesn't want to fight, it seems. Maybe a call from Best Chuck that he didn't want it. Now
I think
going to be...
So I was going to say, I think that was really clever from C9 because Beshchuk knew he couldn't go through the portal, started to take a position that was defensive outside of the portal, and I think Gabe Vizzle immediately made a move to threaten Beshchuk in his own positioning, and Beshchuk was like, okay, I don't feel safe in this current scenario. As soon as that bright bulwark drops, they can immediately just jump on me and kill me, and that was a good move from TSM to end up backing out there.
He actually bought himself a reflex block. That's what he wanted to do at the shop. Get a reflex block, sell his armor so that he can avoid the afterburns that Old School are going to be looking to use to try and win the fight. You know, if Old School afterburns Best Chuck into a compromising position, allows for Gabe Vizzle to combo with a Holy Nova on points laid down and the Rose Offensives tear through his HP bar. That's like the combination Cloud9 are looking to win these team fights. So, you know, it was more of a timing issue, wasn't ready, didn't go for it. Good discipline from TSM not to commit to the fight when they really wanted it.
Yeah, well, it's because they got a couple of stray basic attacks. Here's the Von C going in.
Yeah, it does go in. Not quite able to land the Bangarang, but Gabe Vizzle, oh, just about survives. Look, Joseph goes very low. Here comes that jump jets, and Joseph will get incinerated. It's going to be a double. It's looking for more, but Old School will be able to tear through him. Now, with the Poison Shift, can he tear through the HP bar of Von C? No, he cannot. It's an ace for TSM, and the Kraken is theirs.
There is a very, very slight window against the Baron where he gets the impression that he can make an aggressive jump, and that is when you play these kind of compositions with the likes of C9 where you can try and turn and burst him. They did not make that move because Gabe Vizzle had already taken too much damage, and that by that point TSM had already won the fight. If you allow a Baron to make an aggressive jump jets and you don't punish him for it, you have lost the fight. There was a very slim window for C9 to exploit there, but I think at that point C9 Gabe Vizzle was too low to make it happen. And the cleanup was so easy for TSM from that point. This is just Baron doing Baron things, Dalsy. And I mean, C9 don't look like they're in a position to be able to contest it.
Doesn't seem likely. Kraken goes down, secured by a Iron Cannon from Best Chuck and A. And it makes you wonder what kind of composition could have been drafted by Cloud9 to perhaps change it. They picked the Grace before the Baron. Grace definitely can work into Baron, but perhaps the Black Feather and the Glaive not working as well as Cloud9 would have hoped. Now with the Kraken pushing down, the turrets all gone. It's the choke point turret next on the menu for TSM. One more team fight from them, one more ace, and it's game over for Cloud9. Bangarang going to launch. It is going to be blocked up by Joseph. A lot of damage onto Von C. He's looking for some healing. Fountain comes out, and Best Chuck is in the middle of the fight, looking for the damage onto Old School. Jump Jet's going to go out. Look at the damage being tearing through. It's a double kill in one auto attack for Best Chuck and A. And Gabe Vizzle, yes, he's fast, but he's going to be able to escape for now. It seems the portal not quite fast enough to catch up, but he is in a 1v2 against a Baron, a Best Chuck Baron, and the Kraken.
And this is going to be a good shove. I don't know if the TSM should be able to finish here, but remember, it'll be a very quick respawn from I Love Joseph and Old School once this turret goes down, and this could be potential for TSM to throw. They are going to respawn now. Gabe Vizzle going in.
Respawning. They need to come in, and they need to blow up Best Chuck here, or it's game over. He jump jets away. He gets stunned. He gets blown up, but he's done the damage, and the Kraken one more auto attack, and it's a TSM victory. GG, well played to TSM. Cloud9, unfortunately, getting schooled.
I think lessons learned, Dalsy, and I think there is one giant lesson to learn from this game. You do not give Best Chuck NA Baron, and if you do, you better have a darn good plan.
Darn good plan indeed. Back to the draft. All the drafting board, it seems, for Cloud9 as Game 2 looms around the corner, but TSM once more looking like the kings of North America.
They certainly do, and doing it in style with the king of the jungle, no less. The Ozo starting the snowball, but Best Chuck NA picking up where it starts and rolling it all the way into a victory. TSM looking amazing in that game, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, Best Chuck on a Baron is... I equate it to old school on a Dashio. It's just one of those picks, you can't let it happen. And when are the teams going to learn to ban it away from? This is the 5th time this season that Best Chuck has been able to play Baron. That is a ridiculous amount for a hero that is banned almost every game. TSM has gotten their hands on it 5 times now and have obviously won every single one of those.
And I thought Cloud9 had the right mindset or item build at least. They both rushed Aegis. Both of them didn't finish Metal Jacket, so I thought the idea was to ignore the Ozo and go straight onto the Baron. But instead, every fight, they will try to focus Ozo because it was easy to focus. He jumped in there. But that's not what you want to do. Like we said, you want to get onto the Baron. And they'll just bunch up trying to kill Ozo. And then Baron will just get so much value off his rocket AoE damage and just blow them up. And I'm like, you guys don't have Metal Jacket. Like, focus the carry that you build the least defense against. When you have an Aegis and Ozo, just ignore him and go on the Baron. If you don't kill the Baron, you're going to lose every fight. And that's exactly what happened this game.
Yeah, it certainly is. And I mean, we mentioned the fact that Baron is slipping through these drafts and being given to Best Chuck NA. That's exactly what we were talking about at the start of the North American broadcast, right? These drafts are changing and teams have to adapt to this. And it means things like this comfort Baron for Best Chuck will get through. And when that happens, things like that double kill happen. And
they were hugging each other before they went down there.
They went down in each other's arms. It's a beautiful picture, but not beautiful if you're a Cloud9 fan, that is for sure. So now, looking towards the next game then, aside from just banning Baron, what needs to change for Cloud9? Because it didn't feel like it was just that, oh, Baron got through, so they lost. Like, TSM, they were ahead for the entire game.
Yeah, it was, like CJ was saying, the decision-making from Cloud9 where if you're going to itemize defense against one of your opponent's carries, you need to be focusing the other one down because you're literally built to be able to withstand the damage from one of them, and they were trying to focus that target. And it just, there was a couple other mistakes. You know, there's one fight where Blackfeather got dropped really low, and the Divine Intervention never came out to heal him. That's a very minor thing over the course of this game because that play alone does not end up losing them the game. It's just the overall decision-making was not where it needs to be to take down a team like TSM.
Sure, Vox is going to be the first ban here for TSM, leaving open a lot of power picks even after Cloud9's ban here. They've set themselves up strongly already.
Yeah, maybe they'll ban the Baron here. Yep, they're going to ban Baron. So Grumpjaw, Grace is open. I think TSM will probably go for Lyra, Grace here.
We've seen them go for Grace on many occasions already.
Usually it's Grace on A side, but they may pick the Lyra over the Grace, which is going to be, I mean, they're both even. It's just Lyra's better early, Grace is just a little better late. So let's see what TSM is going to decide, but I think they're probably going to lean towards the Grace because they have a lot of good competitions they can run around the Grace combo here.
Yeah, I have a feeling they would go towards the Grace, maybe think that Cloud9 might go for the Grumpjaw, and then they can ban away the Lyra, but they're actually going to focus on taking the Lyra first. They're going to give the Grace over. Apparently not impressed with Gabe Vizel's Grace off of that one.
I mean, Lyra is also kind of the signature champion for FlashX, it feels like, to some extent. He definitely a comfort pick, and just like Grace, there's a lot of different directions you can go with a Lyra pick.
They need to take Grace here, because if they don't, Grace will be banned against them. Or they can run a Fortress into Lyra, which would be actually a little more ideal because Fortress is a good counter to Lyra depending on the competitions that they can pick up here. So maybe a Koshka first pick and then banning the Grumpjaw away. And then taking a Baptiste, for example. I mean, there's a lot of options Cloud9 has here, but I think they may just go for comfort pick and take Grace. Oh, they're actually going to do a Koshka first pick. So this is an awesome pick here, and then they can go ahead and now ban Baptiste or Grumpjaw. But I think Grumpjaw makes more sense because a Koshka can beat a Baptiste when Koshka has Fortress. So let's see what Cloud9 is going to decide.
And also, you could put Baptiste into the captain role alongside a Koshka, which you kind of kill two birds with one stone.
Yeah, that works too.
Not only that, but you know, if you do have the Baptiste with the Koshka, you can then send out Fearsome Shades. And while they're feared up, that's when the Yummy Catnip Frenzy can come through. It can work really, really well.
Yeah, when they're feared, though, since it's considered a stun mechanic, you can still reflex block during a fear. So they can still block a Koshka ultimate while they're feared. So it doesn't work like a silence. If it did, that would be pretty broken. but it's still a very long duration. I mean, it's 1 second at level 1. So they're going to take Grace away, which is smart because Grace, Koshka is extremely strong together.
That's why you build an Echo on the Batiste. Use it, bait out the reflex blocks, and then you use it again. And then you get the you get the Yummy Catnip Frenzy to land.
I mean, we've seen how
all
effective
that works
that can
just
be.
for a Yummy Catnip Frenzy.
So,
That's
Suijay, what are we expecting for these next few picks,
Fortress or Baptiste would work here. They can do a Baptiste Captain, would work very well. Or they can just take Fortress and then counter the Lyra heal and Baptiste pick into them. Yep, they're going to go with the Fortress. So this is a comp that Cloud9 actually beat TSM with week 1. So TSM should have an answer to this. But however, they are winning draft right now. Cloud9 is winning the draft because Lyra is countered by Fortress.
Suijay, do you ever get tired of being right all the time? Like, it's so
I'm only right
rare.
when teams pick meta and they do things that make sense. So that's why I'm not as right when I'm
So
on
you're
EU
saying
teams.
when you're wrong, the teams aren't making sense. Okay, I'll quote you directly on that. So TSM's picks coming through now. Bacon, what are we expecting to see here?
there's a lot of different options. I would like to see them pick up something that can go aggressive into this Koshka. Maybe something like a Glaive that has that little bit of displacement. Vox being banned, I think, is actually a really good thing for TSM here because, like Suijay was saying, it was the Koshka Fortress is what Cloud9 beat them with in week 1, but that was with a Vox on their team. And so it's going to force a little bit of difference. The Jewel coming out.
TSM are liking the Jewel. They played this
I wouldn't have
last
called it.
week.
Maybe because Jewel can jump away when Fortress ults and they're diving onto her. But Jewel is not... the Mortar Wounds really is hard against her because she has a lot of armor and defense, but not defense against the bleed and stuff. So in terms of... yeah, I was going to say Baptiste would be the next one because when Fortress ults, Baptiste can then use his ultimate to cancel the wolves out and just make them run the other direction. However, Koshka Fortress is really good into Baptiste because they can stand their ground and out-damage him.
So that's the TSM composition rounded out. The Jewel once again for best Chug, and we'll see what Cloud9 are going to go for. It is going to be the Ringo. We've seen Ringo creeping on in a little bit here. Are we expecting that to be weapon power Ringo going into the lane there?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Thank God.
yeah, there's
all I'll say on that
literally zero chance of this being a Crystal Ringo.
Okay, I'm happy to hear that. What are we thinking about these compositions? What do we make of the Jewel here? Does it fit the composition, Suijay?
It does if they can get onto the Ringo and kill him and delete him. Koshka and Fortress are just too fast for Jewel. It's going to be really hard to land that Rocket Leap. So they need to ordain Ringo and then Rocket Leap into that circle if Ringo is going to decide to stand his ground and fight. So that's going to be... it's a lot of execution. So Old School just so good at reflex blocking, he's going to get out. And Ringo's fast too. So it's going to be hard to land a Rocket Leap on him.
What are your thoughts, Bacon?
Yeah, the Jewel is going to be iffy. If it comes out and the Thunder Strikes are able to connect, it can really tear through something like the Koshka when she jumps in. And that's going to be the chance for TSM. It's just blowing up Koshka when she jumps in and then try and shift your focus onto the Ringo afterwards.
All right, we'll see if that's going to come to pass. TSM currently 1-0 up in the series. We'll see if they can book their ticket to finals or whether Cloud9 are going to turn this into a full matchup. Hashtag Vainglory8 is how you can let us know who you're supporting moving forward. But it's time to get on to the Halcyon Fold for another game here between TSM and Cloud9.
And this is an ultra aggressive comp coming out of Cloud9 here. Fortress only has one move, Scoundrel, and it's jump on the opponents. That's it. If that doesn't work, then you're dead. But Joseph, obviously on this Kosh, going to be following up greatly. But Von C, he's on this Batiste. It was Cloud9 who engineered the Batiste pick into Von C's Koshka, and now TSM going to be looking to find a revenge move with theirs.
Oh man, you took the words out of my mouth. That is, I was going to say that the composition from C9, it only has one button, and that's go. There is no two facets about this. This is literally, you pull the trigger and you go at the enemy. There is no second move. There is no hidden trap card. This is just hit the enemy as hard as you can. And the problem with that is that TSM have two ways of dealing with it. They've got the ability to disengage. They've got the heal. They have the ability to count. I mean, I actually think the Fearsome Shade shuts down the Cloud9 composition incredibly quickly. You know, you see Cloud9 jump in, Fearsome Shade, suddenly they can't do anything.
Yeah, and point blank Fearsome Shade's very hard to block, of course. You know, there is an animation, Batiste jumps up in the air and throws it out. But it seemingly, you know, it gets the best of players. You know, I've seen Fearsome Shades consistently, not being blocked by Crucible by, some of the captains that are feared for their Crucible abilities. So it's a very hard ability. Of course, Gabe Vizzle, certainly one of the best when it comes to the Crucible, and I'm hoping to see some fantastic Crucibles because, of course, if Cloud9 block the Fearsome Shade and keep charging at TSM, then they're not going to get feared by, the second tick or the third tick of the Fearsome Shade. It's going to be completely negated. However, Old School needs to, be stepping up on this Ringo. We've seen a lot of Ringo come out here on 2.6, surprisingly, and not much success on it, to be honest.
Yeah, Ringo has been a pick that has sometimes been picked into box, sometimes been picked into the lane, but you're right, the success has not been there. Trying to put pressure onto Best Joker. Dane comes through, there's the jump.
That's huge. Joseph's getting just chunked out, and it's going to be Flash X with a cheeky auto attack to find the kill. Gabe Vizzle jumping onto Von C, but a heal will get Von C out of trouble easily. TSM with the first blood, Scoundrel.
What a beautiful combination between Ordained and the jump from the duel right there, the Rocket League. I think that's kind of what Suijay was talking about. You need to have that combination, especially against some of the super mobile targets. Again, Koshka, someone that is so reliant on mobility, so reliant on her movement speed, and gap closing. Ordained kind of shuts her down. That is the main facet of the kit. We talked about Poison Shiv being good against the Ozo because it shuts down a part of his kit that is so important to him. Part of Koshka's kit is her ability to generate such incredible mobility, and that's what Ordained does to shut her down.
Yeah, certainly. There's counters to everything, Scoundrel. That is the beauty of MOBAs, the beauty of a draft mode as well. Joseph going to continue to look to put pressure on to this lane. Best Chuck obviously can hold his own. The Thunderstrike clears these waves pretty quickly, so the turret's not going to take too much of a beating here whatsoever. In fact, won't take any damage. But TSM currently with a bit of an advantage. Only 500 at this point, but seemingly could get to become more as Von C levels up, hits level 6, Fearsome Shade becomes unlocked.
Yeah, it's a very important ability because, like we said, it's a very linear composition and sort of, I guess, decision-making process for C9. Fortress just has, I press ult, I run at you, we focus the target, we kill them. Koshka can do that as well. She also has the ability to peel, but Fortress isn't really a peeling captain player. So Fortress is not a appealing captain hero, so he's not going to have that potential. So when he jumps in, you just pick proc Fearsome Shade, and suddenly Fortress has lost half of his kit. So I think that's why this Batiste pick is so good into the C9 composition, and why Fortress is going to be very difficult to make work here for C9, especially as this goes on. So many squishy targets with Von C to land such massive bad mojos on as well. We saw how impactful they can be against the likes of Glaive and Blackfeather. This is against the likes now of Koshka, who, by the way, has already decided to itemize into that double tier 1 shielding for I Love Joseph.
Yeah, I want to see reflex blocks come out of Cloud9's members ASAP as well, because I think it's going to be important if they want to chase down Cloud9 that they have their own way of blocking the abilities. Cloud9, they do have a bit of range advantage to themselves in the form of the Ringo. One thing that has surprised me is the fact that Cloud9's Gabe Vizzle didn't go a Dragon Blood contract on the Fortress. Would have really synergized quite well with the Koshka and the chase down potential, especially considering they went for that early gank onto the duel.
Yeah.
But that's neither here or there now. It's something that's in the past.
Something that we've talked about, by the way, with Koshkas and how a lot of North American teams are starting to respond. I think you specifically said FlashX made this cool. Koshka now level 6. Already both carries have got reflex blocks. They know that it is such an important facet of shutting down what makes Koshka so brilliant post level 6, and they already have that on board. So following their own advice and following it well here, Dal.
Yeah, you can't be a hypocrite. You need to be preaching what you speak, Scoundrel, and TSM certainly doing so right now. Joseph has not found an impact yet on this Koshka. Now with a level 6 Von C, this is where things get a little bit scary for the side of Cloud9. Those bad mojos, as soon as the clockwork is finished, are going to be troublesome. Just going to hit like a truck, especially onto the Ringo, who is very squishy at this point. TSM happy to pretty much just get Von C to that point. They don't need to force fights, but if Old School just checks the bush like this, they will! Old School gets stunned, he gets feared, he gets knocked back to base by Von C, and that is a huge mistake. Gabe Vizzle may even lose his life. Thunderstrike doesn't quite connect. Looks like Gabe Vizzle will be able to port back to base, but you do not face check a bush, and you do not face check a bush as the carry of your team.
What was that? I was sitting there looking like he's not.
There was flares.
I was looking at him saying he's not going to do that. Surely he's not going to do that. And he walked into a Batiste as well. Not only carry, right? Yeah, okay, carry's a different story. Okay, you should never really do that as carry. But face checking a Batiste composition.
And
that is asking to die.
Don't face check a Jewel. Don't face a Batiste. There's so many heroes that you just don't face check. There's flares in Gabe Vizzle's inventory. That's extremely sloppy play from Cloud9.
I think that's just a life lesson for VG. You should never really face check, unless you're something like a Catherine who can shrug it off with Storm Shield in a lot of situations. Never face check a Brush. I don't know what old school was asking for there, but it certainly wasn't to get anything good out of that situation.
The great thing about 2.66 Scoundrel and solo queue is that you've got these new chat messages. We need vision, ping a bush, instantly a flare comes out from your captain if he's on board with your ideas. Cloud9 are on voice comms, you know, that should never be a thing, that should ever be a problem. And it just feels like sloppy mistakes from Cloud9, definitely not unified Western Live Championship winning mistakes here from Cloud9. Now, there is the argument, and people have made this about Cloud9, is they've already booked their ticket to Worlds. They don't need to take these seasons seriously, but that is just such a bad trap to fall into, Scoundrel. You should constantly be working to be the best team of your region, the best team of the world. Cloud9 currently are not showing that.
No, I mean, they are. I mean, they're still beating the opposition that we expected to beat, but there is no longer the closeness with Big Fight breaking out, though.
Yeah, Big Fight. That's going to be Fearsome Shade just knocking Old School to death. They do return the kill, though, onto Best Chuck. John C does get aggressed onto here. The Wolf's still there, ticking away. Will clear them. And here comes Von C looking for an Ordained. Bad Mojo won't be able to find a target. These guys able to run away. Gabe Vizzle, though, jumps forward, doesn't get stunned. Von C fairly healthy, though, from his Reap passive as well as the heals coming out of Flash X. That's going to be Joseph just jumping straight into a Bad Mojo. Von C, though, has his passive unlocked. Will not throw out any Bad Mojo. Is going to go back to jungle, it seems, and farm a bit up.
Already hit that Shatter Glass as well. And you can see Best Chuck and A working towards the breaking point, so he's going to start to be more and more of an impact in these team fights. Interestingly enough, one thing that Fortress does provide is another form of Mortal Wounds. So you're going to have a couple of sources of Mortal Wounds in this composition against the Lyra. Very good against the Batiste as well, to shut down his sustain that he brings to his Bad Mojo. So there is some element of thought process to this Fortress pick. It does have some synergy in shutting down the heavy healing coming out from TSM, but you saw how impactful that Fearsome Shade was in that last fight, Dowsey. That's only going to get worse and worse the longer this goes. The more and more CP that Von C builds up, the harder and harder the Best Chuck and A is going to hit in the downtime where everybody is feared. You're going to have some excellent crucibles from Gabe Vizzle this game.
Yeah, and you know, I did mention Gabe Vizzle, fantastic at his crucibles. If one man could do it, then I believe it is Gabe Vizzle, but we'll have to see it. Old School gets put into an Ordained. It's going to be TSM being aggressed onto Cloud9 pushing forward. That big red button really not going to do too much, considering it is the red build coming out of Best Chuck. Fonzie able to block up that Hellfire Brew fairly easily. Cloud9 are showing that their composition does have advantages. If they play the fights like that, then they do a lot of damage. This is going to be the Gold Miner taken away, it seems, by Cloud9. Ooh, the Sigil, almost well timed, but wasn't quite enough to steal it away.
And C9 still taking advantages where they can get them, despite the fact that they don't seem to be getting massive advantages in team fights. It just seems like TSM's unable to contest these global objectives just yet. Maybe waiting for some crucial item spikes. Best Chuck and A now is level 8. Overdriven Thunder Strikes, picked up the infusion to go with that to boot. Von C probably going to finish up that clockwork, may even pick up no, won't refresh his infusion right now. He's got a level 9 infusion, but we want to finish that clockwork ASAP here. So again, some item spikes that TSM might be waiting for before they choose to make a fight happen.
Currently, TSM just farming up the lane, Koshka making a way down, so that's what Cloud9 are waiting on. TSM's siege potential isn't really there. Fonzie can throw the Bad Mojos out, but they don't really have much to really siege. They rely on Cloud9 to engage on top of them, to be honest, to be able to get objectives in this game.
Yeah, they are a counter-engage composition if I've ever seen one in my life. It's an excellent counter-engage from TSM. And again, it does rely on Cloud9, but I mean, Cloud9 only have that one option, Dowsey, so that is something that will be sticking in the back of the Cloud9 mind. They don't really have anything else other than engage. So they play exactly into TSM's hand by having to do exactly what their win condition is. TSM have drafted the perfect way to counter the C9 win condition. It's just about executing at this point in time. Obviously, C9 can still win if they get a pick or if they get a lot of burst damage onto a single target or someone misses their reflex block, but realistically, I don't think they should, which is the difference. TSM should beat Cloud9 every single fight because they have the perfect way to counter what C9 brings to the table. But obviously execution comes into play. C9 could still win if things go wrong on TSM's side. But it would rely on TSM making a mistake, and I think that's the crucial difference here. TSM need to make a mistake, whereas C9 obviously can be proactive.
So we do have a pause here. We'll find out what it's about very shortly, if it is going to be a long one. I think that we can throw back to the draft and maybe break down how this happened, Dick Scoundrel.
Sure.
Cloud9 did something that you don't often do on B-side, which was they first picked their jungler, which was Koshka, really prioritized it, and then picked the Fortress straight afterwards. Already, the composition, the win condition is revealed. It doesn't matter what the weapon power carry is going to be, as it was Ringo, because the weapon power carry isn't going to change the win condition for Cloud9. So TSM were completely able to outdraft on A side. It's usually B side's ability to outdraft what an A side draft is doing, but Cloud9 showed all their cards to TSM right at the beginning of the game, and TSM said, all right, well, you know, now I can counter you.
What I think was more interesting was that they picked Koshka, and they had the opportunity to ban Baptiste, which is a classic ban when you pick a Koshka, and didn't. Ban Grumpjaw because maybe they were afraid of Von C's weapon power Grumpjaw in the jungle, which is a very good matchup into Koshka in sort of 1v1 trading. And then they left the Baptiste open, which is, again, equally as good into a Koshka. Shuts down what she wants to do. You can see Koshka has already prioritized an Aegis here before her Broken Myth because it is so important that she has that reflex block to get out of the Ordained. That's what surprised me about the draft even more so. But the whole C9 draft surprised me because it all seems so heavily countered by Baptiste, yet they didn't think about a Baptiste ban in the second ban phase.
Yeah, very interesting stuff coming out of Cloud9 in this season here. Currently 3-1 towards TSM, but there is a gold advantage to Cloud9. Let's not forget, 1,000 gold ahead. We're talking like this is Cloud9's funeral a little bit, Scoundrel. You know, currently they do have a slight advantage in this game. I guess if they're able to meet their win conditions consistently, block up these fears, make sure they don't get caught in the Ordains, then they will be in a good position. We have just learned that this pause is based on a Cloud9 member disconnecting from the game, so I'm going to give them some time to sort out their connection, reconnect here. Obviously, it would be a shame for Cloud9 to, you know, kind of lose this matchup due to having a poor connection.
Yeah, absolutely, Darcy. I think could have phrased it better myself. I think C9's win condition still remains that if they have the potential to burst the target out, which is still possible with a Ringo and a Koshka, the problem is because they have had to both go Aegis so early on here, you are sacrificing damage. Koshka's really only sitting on an Aftershock at this point in time, and Old School at this point is, I think, just on a Sora Blade and a Poison Shiv. That does scream ridiculous burst damage to me, Dowsey. So you are, with the win condition of C9 relies on making a burst-orientated play with the Fortress and the Koshka, all focusing the same target. But because you've had to be forced into a defensive itemization early, you play away from that win condition. So now C9 might not actually have the damage necessary to fulfill the necessary win condition of just killing someone very quickly.
I wonder how long Cloud9 can stall out until Old School starts hitting those damage points. I assume Old School going to go towards, you know, a crit build after this, but we'll have to find out. Does have a
I would be surprised. I would be surprised if it's a crit build. Personally, I would
breaking
point. Yep. I think a breaking point is where you go from here. And the problem is with Poison Shiv. Poison Shiv automatically makes crit builds bad, in my opinion, in a lot of ways, just because of attack speed item. It means that you don't. I don't think you really want to go like Poison Shiv, Tornado Trigger, Tyrant's Mono, because I just don't think the damage is there. You really do want to have a breaking point in a crit build because it is critical strike, integral way of the way that you build breaking point stacks. So therefore you get infinitely more powerful through critical strikes, and then your critical strikes become more powerful because your breaking point is stacking up. And you can't go Poison Shiv, Breaking Point, Tornado Trigger, for instance. And Tornado Trigger Tyrant's Molecule is just the best way to achieve maximum critical strike chance on a 4-item build, including Solar Blade and Breaking Point. So by adding Poison Shiv to the build, you automatically make a critical strike build worse because you're replacing something like a Breaking Point. So therefore you limit the capabilities of your critical strikes, if that makes sense.
I believe it does, Scoundrel. I'm on board with what you're saying here. Just thinking about mentalities now, Scoundrel, pauses often do change the pacing of a game. We see it so often across esports. When a big pause comes out, it can really change how people's internal clocks are ticking, where they feel they are at the game. We're currently sitting at the 12-minute mark, but this pause has gone on for a couple minutes now, and that might accelerate people's internal game clocks to think that they are further ahead than they are. I actually think this possibly, if we're talking about the deepest psychological level of mentality here at Scoundrel, favors Cloud9, due to the fact that TSM's anti-dive composition relies on them to be constantly on watch, on alert, waiting for the engage from Cloud9, ready to disengage it. So we'll have to see how that does pay out. It does seem like this pause will be a little bit more extended than we anticipated at Scoundrel. So let's throw it back to our analyst desk to kind of break down what they've seen so far of this game.
Thank you very much, guys. Yeah, we've got a little bit of a pause. We'll talk you through some of the action that's been going on quickly while we wait for the game to resume. So it started off with a lead for TSM here. 3-1 is the scoreline right now. We were a little bit unsure by the dual pick, but it's worked out for them in the past. But it's all about Cloud9 right now.
Yeah, Cloud9, for some reason, they're not winning the early game with Koshka. You know, Koshka Fortress should have some more aggressive rotations. Old School did, or Joseph actually rotated up to lane, and then TSM pulled an amazing Ordain dual stun combo and just deleted him. And when you're an early game composition and you give off a death that early, it's really bad because you can't then pressure the lane. You can't do what you want to do to then rotate to their jungle, etc. So now you lost one rotation, right? And every minute counts before the 4-minute mark, because that's when the sentry shows up at 4 minutes. And then Old School then made another mistake. He face checks the tri-bush without any vision and just gets deleted and loses the fight immediately. Again, for an early game composition, you can't afford mistakes like that.
Yeah, and now the Cloud9 are kind of in a position where they don't have the late game power spikes in the same way that TSM do. So they've essentially, over the next couple of minutes of the game, they really have to find a way to get themselves back in and get competitive in terms of the scoreboard.
Which is going to be so tough to do because they've fallen behind. And they have this early game composition that, you know, does have some fairly strong power spikes early on, but if you're letting your opponents get to their mid-game power spikes, when you're getting to your early game power spikes, that's a big issue for them, and that's why they've been, you know, sort of struggling a little bit. And like I said, you know, we're at about the 12-minute mark on the pause right now. This is where they need to make something happen, because if this gets to 15 minutes with TSM still having this clean lead, then you really have to figure it's just going to be downhill for Cloud9 from there on out.
Yeah,
there was one fight too where Fortress turned level 6, and it was by the tri-bush in TSM's tri-bush, and you know, Flash used his bulwark, and then Gabe then ulted once the bulwark was up, and then they actually won the fight. Chuck got deleted, but Gabe forgot to fountain Old School, and Old School was killed on the end of the tri-bush. So I felt like Gabe missed the fountain timing. That's something that's very out of character for Gabe. His fountain times have been amazing every single time. So then that's another mistake that the team made, that they could have won the fight there with the Wolves and the ultimate up, could have got the ace, and then they could have then got a first turret. Because it was the early game composition, 12 minutes in and no first turret, that's kind of scary, right? However, Fortress is still very viable in the late game because of the mortar wounds, because of the bleed. So Cloud9 can still make some plays. All they need is one good ace, and they can then take the game and take the lead.
That could be kind of the turning point for them, especially if TSM makes a mistake, maybe starts a Kraken, ends up quite low from tanking the Kraken, and then Cloud9 can maybe find something. Obviously, maybe that's not the perfect scenario. I'm not the analyst here. You guys are. But, I mean, right now, if you're a Cloud9 fan, like, what what is going through the heads of the players? Like, what is the next step, or what are they going to be saying to each other to keep themselves going here, to keep themselves on top of mentality?
I think the big focus for them is going to be utilizing that Fortress ultimate, making sure that they get past the fearsome shade coming out and get onto Best Chuck. He's going to be a very easy target to take down. Even when he has Rocket Leap up, you can still get a ton of damage onto him before he actually is able to jump away. And then with the Fortress applying extra movement speed,
sorry, the game is starting again, so I'm going to cut you off there. It's time to jump back on into this one. Let's head back into TSM Cloud9.
Thank you very much, Munch. The game is indeed starting, and here is the action once more, brought to you live from... Yeah, I don't know where I was going to say something really cool, Scoundrel, and it just slipped my mind. Maybe I'm
brought to you live from my couch that I am lying down on and casting Vainglory from. There you go.
There you go, Scoundrel's casting couch. Nice one. So, let's go.
That's the name of your guild.
It is. All right, let's not derail. It's been a long pause. These players would have been antsy to get back into the game. Obviously, internal clocks have been interrupted at Scoundrel. It's always interesting to see how that influences the gameplay.
Yeah, I think essentially, C9 have got a bit of breathing room. They could sort of take stock of how they should have been playing in the sort of early portion of this game, and now have been able to turn around and say, okay, what can we do to maybe remedy where we have gone wrong, reset our mentality heading into this? Can we look to exploit vision? Can we look to make picks? This could be a big area like this onto FlashX, who's forced a portal immediately. And again, that's the kind of move that C9 does want to make, with the gold mine now being the focus here, Darcy.
Yeah, and this is what kind of the pause has enabled for Cloud9, is the fact that TSM were roaming as 3, and that would have been allowed. Now, things have kind of been disrupted for them. Cloud9's got to pull and engage here with the attack the pack going in towards TSM, but they don't want to fight around the Crystal Sentry. Instead, they're going to move straight towards the lane, try and push this wave in as quickly as possible and get some chip damage on the turret. TSM, though, quick to move, will make it to the lane before Cloud9 are able to do so. FlashX, not that he's used it, does have the wall treads available if Cloud9 do try to make quick rotations like that.
We are actually in a situation where Cloud9 are almost 2,000 gold in the lead just because TSM have felt so afraid to potentially teamfight here, Darcy.
That's often not the case. TSM, Cloud9, North American teams in general, very quick to pull and engage at Scoundrel. Often the criticism of EU is that they are very slow, they're very scared to pull engages. Currently, TSM, knowing that their win conditions are the fact that they have to anti-engage the Cloud9 team, means that they aren't going for them. That's huge damage onto Best Chuck, this turret. Oh, Vonsi almost goes down. The Fountain keeps him alive. They block the fear. It's going to be Cloud9 going in, and they find the kill onto Best Chuck and A. Now looking for Flash X, old school, just tanking up this turret, but they will just finish it down. And if anyone can block a fearsome shade, it is Gabe Vizzle himself.
That is the perfect block, the only one necessary to keep the C9 composition alive. The burst damage is starting to come through from them. TSM really going to have to start to consider some accelerated defensive itemization here. You need, I think, realistically, Aegis finished on Vonsi and Best Chuck ASAP. Best Chuck probably working towards that now. Darcy finishes turrets. Monaco has got tier 2 shielding and the reflex block. Vonsi will have to move towards it as well. If they are going down so quickly, if they get targeted by everybody from C9. C9 have finally found that remedy to say, focus one target, everybody pilot on that target, proc the fortress, proc the fortress damage from Law of the Claw, and then obviously Joseph able to get the single target damage in as well. And like you said, the Crucible onto the Fearsome Shade, absolutely necessary to keep C9's hopes alive in these team fights. Suddenly, things are starting to look up for these guys.
Certainly is. Like you mentioned, a huge gold lead has been accumulated, 4,000 at this point. And, in the pause, I did mention that, we were talking a bit like Cloud9 had lost the game, but they've certainly meeting their win conditions right now. With the blocks onto this Fearsome Shade, it is working out. Let's just hope they don't throw the lead. Currently, this Kraken being started up, just baiting TSM to look for an engage. That's exactly what Cloud9 wants. TSM to engage onto their dive composition. Makes their life so much easier. Yeah. However, though, TSM won't be baited.
I always phrase this as that by forcing an engage onto a dive composition, you do their jobs for them. So by going for Kraken, it's a neutral objective that demands a response, and TSM will be forced to either face check or find an engage. So by forcing Kraken or baiting Kraken or even just threatening that you are near Kraken, it makes TSM make the move to that neutral objective area, forcing them to get close enough to C9 for either a very good engage, or like you said, doing C9's job for them, and bringing those carries directly to their front door.
TSM, they are scared, man. This is the scaredest I've seen TSM, I think, ever in a BG8 game. They are, you know, not wanting to find themselves in a point where Cloud9 can engage upon them. They want to wait for Cloud9 to make mistakes. Cloud9 currently, without their Koshka, without Joseph, are threatening this Crystal Sentry, looking to take it down, and take it down they do. TSM needs to pull the trigger now. They need to go to Old School. Old School go very low. Chuck jumps behind them. He's just kiting him up, but they're going to find the kill onto Old School now. Can TSM do more? Yes, they can. They blow up Joseph, and that is the mistake that TSM have been waiting for the side of Cloud9 to take so much damage taking a Crystal Sentry.
I don't really know what Old School's positioning has been about this game, but it's been triggering me, Dowsey. Like, it's actually been triggering me. I think Old School's been far too aggressive with positioning, kind of disrespecting Batiste's ordained range, and he's been getting consistently locked up in it as well. I don't even know if he used reflex block that last fight. I don't think he did. Didn't even reflex block his way to get out to a sort of more defensive positioning in that fight, and Old School punished for it as well, because Bestchuk was able to jump in and find that executing blow, especially now that he's got a bit of critical strike in his build, hitting that much harder. And again, I would have much preferred Cloud9 to maybe be a bit more sort of aggressively putting vision down instead of trying to aggressively push into the TSM jungle.
Seems like an odd move to go for a Crystal Sentry without their jungler. Now, though, looking for an engage here, and Von C gets tagged right down. Bestchuk is forced to dive away. He's back turned, and it's going to be massive damage coming out. Von C eats the Hellfire Brew, and it's going to be Bestchuk burning away as he gets taken on out. Von C will be the next target. A double kill for Old School. Going to follow through this portal. Look for the ace here, but there's a Kraken eating their base up. Old School should be able to get the ace, it seems. Oh, just about. Stutter stepping like a god. But this Kraken has hit their choke point turret. Now they need to stop it. They might not be able to stop it. 2 turrets for TSM is a win at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, I think they should be able to kill this Kraken before 2 turrets go down here. It'll be very close. Old School won't be able to stack breaking point on Kraken, remember, but does have the Twirling Silver, which is very good at these neutral objective controlling sort of takedowns. It's gonna be close, but I think the choke point turret survives here. So TSM get a technical net loss from that engage. And that was maybe a bit of disrespect from TSM in the sort of, you've got to respect the hard engage that Cloud9 has. You know, that as soon as you see a forward movement from Cloud9, Bright Bulwark's got to come down. You know, then you've got to back off to make sure that you're out of range of I Love Joseph O'Gabriel trying to make that engage happen.
Wow, this game is turning out to be a treat here at Scoundrel. Cloud9 certainly leading the charge, it seems, as far as the majority of the team fights have gone. Mistakes, though, have been there, and TSM have executed upon them. Gold currently sitting at a 5,000, 4,500 advantage for Cloud9. TSM waiting, lurking, hoping for another one of those face checks that Cloud9 did earlier on, but this time Gabe Bizzle very quick with the flares to spot out where TSM are standing. Cloud9 looking for the engage here, but Joseph has been caught in an ordained. Bad Mojo's attacking him right down, down to half health, meaning he can't realistically engage. So Cloud9 gonna have to recall.
Yeah, again, you know, if you get stuck in the ordained, there are 2 things that happen when you're in an ordained. You either stand there and wait for it to run up so you don't have to use a reflex block, or you reflex block your way out of it. If you stand there, it does make you a prime target for Von C to hit some pretty big hitting Mojos, so you do have to be aware that that'll be the case. Old School again, a little bit forward on his positioning, but doesn't feel too threatened just right now.
Old School gonna throw this Hellfire Brew out. It is going to be eaten up, wasn't blocked up by any of the members of TSM, and now they charge forward. FlashX pops the wall treads, uses the portal, gets nice and safe out, but look at the damage he's taken. There's a Kraken spawning as well. Cloud9 almost certainly going to bait TSM into a fight as Bonsi just gets tagged right down, taken on out. It's Old School with the first kill, and now they're looking for Bestchuk as well. Bestchuk will go down. It's going to be Gabe Fizzle getting the killing blow on that one, and FlashX gets stunned by the Yummy Capnip Frenzy. Stunned to his death, and Ace comes out for Cloud9, and they're going to push with these minions. The attack of the pack, they don't need a creep wave. Easy turret for them, and the Kraken will be be next.
Gabe Bizzle has been single-handedly making sure that these fights retain C9's favor. These blocks have been insane throughout the majority of them. But C9 have finally found the ability to just go in on a target with the breaking point now for Old School suddenly makes the stacking of the breaking point so quick. Joseph picking up a load of broken mid stacks as well. They're able to get that burst damage necessary to blow up the single target that they focus. I love the unified focus from C9 onto a single target as well. And again, like I said, Gabe doing such an excellent job of keeping them alive in these fights.
Just reminds me of the last game between Cloud9 and TSM at the Unified Western Live Championship, where it was the crucibles from Gabe Bizzle to block up Vonsi's active camo traps on his Kestrel. Cloud9 charging through them, no fear in their eyes, knowing that their captain had their back, and currently it is just a repeat of that game. They're looking for the choke point turret here, they're gonna get it. Old School taking a bit of damage in the process. Joseph jumps in and will be able to complete it. Now with a Kraken pushing down the lane, they are going to consider pushing for more, but Old School has taken a significant amount of damage before the fight has begun, and they do not have a healer. Could be a worrying point for Cloud9 if an all-out fight was to begin. This Bad Mojo is certainly doing a lot of work for Vonsi right now. This Kraken down to half HP. It seems like Cloud9 are just going to not go for the chase, instead looking to steal away the backs, take this Crystal Sentry down once more. It's going to be a net gold gain for TSM, but Cloud9 getting closer and closer to that Bane Crystal.
Love to join the conversation here, Dalsy, but I'm having a bit of a technical issue on my end, which means I'm currently not in the action. So I'll be there in just a moment. I'll leave you to carry on just for a second.
No worries. TSM, they've shown that they can poke down Cloud9. Old School has been taking a lot of poke damage from Vonsi here. These Bad Mojos from Vonsi are the range threat of TSM. And so for TSM to win a fight, they need to be setting up their anti-dive composition with poke damage. Thunderstrike can do that. It doesn't quite have the range of a Bad Mojo, but you know, if Vonsi's able to hit Old School down, then without the heal that, you know, the Lyra provides for TSM, since they've gone down this Fortress route, there is a window of opportunity for TSM to dissuade Cloud9 from engaging. But then it does go towards a more passive playstyle for TSM. I'm not sure they pulled the engage straight off the bat.
I'm back in, by the way, Darcy. I'm back in.
No worries.
Just so you know.
It's good to know. Scoundrel, what are TSM's ability to win the game other than just, you know, outdoing Cloud9 in a team fight?
I actually would love to have seen an echo on Vonsi. It's something that we've seen on Captain Batiste quite a lot, but I think it shuts down the Crucible, and I think Fearsome Shade is such an important tool for your fight. I don't know whether you just now sacrifice your armor and go for an echo because you need to then echo your ultimate to make sure that you get the disengage necessary, but the disengage is such a key part of the way that TSM are going to win these fights. They need to make it sort of consistently happen to make sure that Gabe Bizzle isn't blocking it consistently as well, because Gabe Bizzle has now been single-handedly allowing C9 to continue after their initial engage because they are blocking the only thing that is stopping them from continuing it. So yeah, I think the echo is a really important part.
That's going to be a snare going down, and it is going to be Old School taking a lot of poke damage, but Joseph's jumping into the fight. Here comes the attack at the back, and that's going to be TSM disengaging the fight. Good usage of the Fearsome Shade. Wasn't quite blocked by Gabe Bizzle, and also Cloud9 pushed. Oh, it was? It
was blocked by Gabe Bizzle, yeah. It was a huge block because it was almost a blind block across the wall as well. It was a very instantaneous use. Great reactions from Gabe Bizzle. I think he might have caught... You know that the classic conundrum with the ultimate from Vonsi, from Batiste, where you can Crucible the first part but still get hit by the last part. I think someone might have got tagged right at the end, but there was a block from Gabe Bizzle, which basically forced TSM to back off from the fight.
Cool. Okay. I just saw that fear and I was like, okay, never mind. It is something
I think it was on the Wolves. I think the fear was on the Wolves.
Right. Okay. That could be possible as well. Interesting right now. Cloud9 looking for this engage, but going to be a bright bulwark stopping them. Old School wants in, so does Joseph. That's going to be a disengage coming out of Best Chunk, and they've stunned down Joseph. Can they burst him is the question. Fearsome Shade this time does catch Old School. He's going to throw out the Hellfire Brew, but Cloud9, they are low, and they are just finding the damage, it seems. Old School started stepping like a god, but it's going to be a double kill for Best Chunk. Gabe Bizzle, the triple kill for TSM. Too deep, it seems, from Joseph.
Oh, but it was also the fact that Old School channels a Hellfire Brew in the middle of a team fight when he's a one-power Ringo.
Triggered!
Don't do that. But no, I think a little bit too deep on Joseph there. TSM found the classic way to disengage. Like you said, the Fearsome Shade did actually land, and actually on one of the most important members of C9 as well, which was onto Joseph, because he did get feared away from the fight, and obviously Koshko being that far away from the fight is not going to have the impact necessary. TSM are going to be shoving down these turrets. I don't even know if they can end here. They might be able to get one turret at least. I think Bestchuck tried to do a little bit of pre-work, so the next time they get a win, they might be able to take those very quickly. Looks like they're going to move on towards the Kraken here, but I don't think they've got enough time now. They made the decision to go for the win, and now they might have sacrificed both elements of a win condition. Didn't get the win, and also didn't get the opportunity to burst down the Kraken. So potentially a misplay there from TSM.
Not often you see macro mistakes from the side of Cloud9. That potentially was one there. Yes, they have set up the Vein Crystal turrets to be taken very quickly by a Kraken if they were able to secure it, but that relies on them winning another team fight here at Scoundrel, relies on another error from Cloud9 to enable that. They are starting to push up, seeming more confident as they start winning some of these team fights. That's going to be the engaged, but it is going to be them diving on in. Vonsi taking a lot of damage. He throws out the Phism Shade, but another block. It's knocked Joseph away. He didn't run with it. Old School taking a lot of damage. He gets blown up, and they're looking for Game Fizzle next. TSM with the double kill. Joseph, last man standing. He's trying to push the wave to stop TSM from taking the base. TSM are chasing a kitty cat instead of just taking the Kraken, instead of just setting up for the win here. I think they need to give up chase and finally take the big beast.
Yeah, they're going straight for Kraken. Kraken should be able to secure. I mean, TSM probably could have won the game, but maybe they felt that they needed a minion wave to do that with. And with I Love Joseph just pushing that minion wave back by himself, he might have actually put enough doubt into TSM's mind that they wouldn't have had the opportunity to burst down those Vein Crystal turrets without the use of a minion wave to help to get rid of the shield, essentially. Kraken will be unleashed. There is still potential for C9 to make a turnaround here. Kraken does not absolutely guarantee TSM the win. Remember, there is a long way that it's got to go before it gets to those Vein Crystal turrets, of which C9 could very well force an engage that might end up winning them the game outright. So this is a very tense situation for TSM, but they seem to have found C9's number when it comes to the fights.
Vonsi has no boots. Really the only cooldown worth mentioning right now is in 10 seconds time, he will be able to speed boost himself, but right now he can't, and he's taking a lot of damage as a result of it. Fearsome Shade goes out, it's blocked, but Joseph doesn't quite get it. In fact, it's Old School. He's contributing no damage. He's gonna come into the fight, but TSM are turning on to Old School, and Old School is gonna get blown up. He finds the kill onto Vonsi, but it doesn't seem to be enough, as Joseph is gonna be the next target. Kraken is in the base. Kraken is taking the first Vein Crystal turret. Bestchuck set it up earlier on in the game. They're chasing this kitty cat, trying to make sure she can't get back to defend the base. Joseph seemingly will be able to, which means another macro error from TSM, it seems, because they could have been with the Kraken right now. Pushing with it, it will secure the second Vein Crystal turret, but now it is going to be this Jewel, this Lyra, to jump over the wall perhaps and just finish the game once and for all. They've got the Wolves to deal with. Here comes Bestchuck. They're going to get turned onto him, but he blocks up the Yummy Captain Frenzy, and that will be GG like that. Like a boss, Bestchuck ends the game.
Oh, part 2, part 3, GG easy. Completely fulfilled there for Bestchuck NA. The tweet made. I mean, that would have been embarrassing if the tweet didn't make sense, but the tweet has now made sense. It's a 2-0 victory, a hard-fought 2-0 victory there for TSM, though. That second game, a real struggle for them, but eventually some of those Fearsome Shades actually having impact. That last one, forcing Ringo well out of the fight, basically won it outright for TSM. And there we have it, 2-0 victory sewn up in the bag.
Incredible game once more from TSM as they take that. Always love these Cloud9 versus TSM series. Obviously the highlight of the season. And it's going to be TSM progressing to the finals to meet Nova, their nemesis, I guess. Let's throw it back to the desk to break down that game.
All right, TSM take it 2-0 in the end, but it was that close to going the other way. I've got to say, Cloud9 did a lot better with that composition in the late game than I think any of us were expecting.
Yeah, that was really, really close. It was so down to the wire, but at the end, that last team fight, a beautiful, fearsome